A cold, cramped legal office. Francis sits completely alone, sliding a pen across his emancipation papers. No dramatic goodbyes, no hesitation. He just legally deletes his bloodline.
This is what you get! This is what you get for the way you treated me! I'm going to Alaska, and you're gonna—
And bolts for Alaska. And guess what? We've all been conditioned to view this as the ultimate rebel power move, the absolute peak of his badass arc. But we were dead wrong. This wasn't the start of a revolution. It was the birth of the biggest character fraud in television history. Because this entire setup isn't actually about Francis winning. It's about him running. He is just a brick wall that his mother, Lois, finally crashed into from afar. Her absolute dictatorial control broke down.
Huh, I didn't know the Hendersons painted their house.
And Francis simply took the coward's way out. He couldn't face the heat, so he packed his bags for the coldest place on Earth. By the way, I already covered Lois's deep psychological trauma in another video. Check the channel. Anyway, I always thought the show framed Francis as the ultimate catalyst, the protagonist of his own side plots, the untouchable idol of his younger brothers. But honestly, that is a massive delusion shared by every single viewer. If you look closely, the whole picture violently flips. Francis is not the rebel of his own show. He is, without a doubt, the least important character in this entire story. Because the truth is, the writers realized Francis was a complete dead end.
insane! There's no way I'm gonna fight a woman!
If I don't mind, why should you?
And the psychological torture they put him through just to save the rest of the show, it's genuinely disturbing. Let me show you what you missed. And I'm not just saying that for clickbait, I mean it. Because once you see the exact moment the writers were forced to permanently destroy his life just to keep this franchise from collapsing, you will never look at this family the same way again. So let's lay down a brutal rule of storytelling. What actually makes a character matter? Growth, the crucible. A real protagonist walks through the fire, gets completely broken down, and crawls out as a different person. Now, look at Francis. His entire rebel identity, it's a massive, pathetic stalling tactic. He doesn't evolve into a revolutionary. He's just a coward who runs away until he inevitably caves. Look at season 1. He's stuck at Marlin Academy. Commandant Spangler applies basic, everyday pressure.
Oh, couldn't be better, Mom. My new roommate showed me how to kill mice with a hammer.
Nothing crazy, just standard military school discipline. And Francis completely short circuits. He can't control his environment, so out of pure spite, he throws a reckless tantrum. That is his entire playbook. He doesn't fight the system to change it. He fights because he has the emotional regulation of a toddler. His strategy is relentlessly repetitive: run away, shut down, or use his mother as a psychological scapegoat. He legally emancipates himself to escape the academy, flees to the frozen hell of Alaska with his friend Eric, and immediately submits to another tyrant.
You must know my buddy Eric Hansen. He's the one who set up the login job for me.
He literally trades one dictator for another because he secretly craves the exact authority he pretends to hate. But wait, what about the Grotto? What about season 5 when Otto handed him the keys to the kingdom and he actually became a man? That's the defense every hardcore fan will scream in the comments right now.
If you are so unhappy with the work I do around here, then I quit!
But trust me, his time at the Grotto wasn't a redemption arc. It was the most humiliating psychological failure of his entire life. Season 5. Otto gives him absolute unfiltered trust. For a brief second, Francis actually steps up. He holds down a job. He acts like a functional human. People call this his peak. But then, the fake ATM incident happens. He unknowingly drops the ranch's entire fortune into a scam.
I was making all of Otto's deposits into wasn't an ATM. So sue me, right? Anyway.
Now, hardcore fans love to cry about this. They blame the showrunners. They say it was lazy writing. But psychologically, it is flawlessly accurate. Because the real tragedy here isn't the lost money, it's his visceral reaction to failure. When a real adult makes a catastrophic mistake, they own it. They bleed to fix it. What does Francis do? he folds. He completely self-destructs. He doesn't fight to get the money back, he runs. By season 6, he crawls back home as a total shell. He is so utterly terrified of Lois's judgment that he decides to live a massive, suffocating lie rather than admit he fumbled his one shot at adulthood. His maturity was always a fragile mirage. The second he faced actual crushing accountability, his brain wiped its own hard drive and rolled him back to his default state, a terrified child hiding from his mother.
My childhood was a nightmare. I spent the rest of my life trying to board up that haunted house.
Francis, this is important.
And if you think Francis destroying his own life is bad, just wait, because his cowardice didn't happen in a vacuum. While he was playing pretend in Alaska and the Grotto, his actions were quietly mutating the rest of his family into actual monsters. Let's look at the collateral damage. Sounds like a theory just for the sake of a theory, right? Okay, let's go through the facts. Season 1, Lois and Hal are barely keeping their finances and their sanity afloat. This is a chance for the younger boys to just have a normal, quiet week. And what happens? The phone rings. It's Francis panicking at the mere thought of actually following the rules. He complains about life at Marlin Academy and how unfair Spangler is, and Lois goes on an absolute rampage.
You send me.
Well, it was not so that you could undermine my authority. And if I am...
Of course, it's not only Francis's fault here. Hal, as usual, showed his absolute cowardice and hid from the confrontation. But we already covered that in a separate episode about Hal and Lois. The link is in the description. Anyway, the mother buries her own peace of mind alive, trying to fix her unfixable son. And nobody even appreciates that sacrifice. They just take it as Lois being a psycho.
That is it!
But calling her a psycho is the easy way out, because Francis didn't just destroy her peace of mind, he actively pushed his parents' marriage to the absolute breaking point. And the craziest part? He didn't even care. Look at what happens when Francis decides he just wants to come home to escape military school. The family is completely divided. Mom and Dad have horrible fights over how to handle him, like when his younger brothers hide him in the backyard treehouse and Hal secretly smuggles him food to avoid facing Lois. The price of his little want is another crack in his parents' marriage. He just stood there, but because of him, everything blew up. But the parents aren't even the biggest victims. If you think Francis standing still is tragic, wait until you see the absolute hell his younger brothers had to crawl through. Reese. At the start, the dumb older brother, the bully, the punching bag. Everyone laughs at him because his genius little brother makes him look pathetic.
You said no clothes. I'll be right back, losers.
You know who he becomes. First, a culinary instinct wakes up in him. He cooks 5-star Thanksgiving dinners.
Thank you, Lord, for giving me the talent to express my love for my family in the only way I know how.
Then he gets his heart broken, drops out, and joins the army. He literally goes to Afghanistan. He comes back. He moves out, shares an apartment with Craig, and takes a job as a high school janitor. From a caricature of a bully to a guy who painfully accepts his own reality and mediocrity. That's a hero's arc. That's a journey. Dewey, on the other hand, the boy with the invisible feelings, a kid who went unnoticed for years because the whole house revolved around Francis's drama and Lois's screaming. He goes through the pain of extreme neglect, through manipulating his own parents just to get basic attention. And then, in the later seasons, Dewey basically becomes the savior. He deliberately tanks his own IQ test to stay in special education, just to protect the Buseys from the system.
Thinks I might be a genius too, but I'm not a whiny loudmouth who complains about everything.
He holds the emotional core together. If you think the younger brothers had it rough, you are completely ignoring the darkest, most depressing reality of this entire show. Because the parents didn't just struggle to raise these kids. They literally tortured their own minds to keep them alive. Then we have Hal. Everyone just sees the goofy, distracted dad. But look at what he's actually doing. The man was so deeply terrified and crushed by the pressure of his household that he literally skipped work every single Friday for 15 years to go to theme parks, museums, and batting cages.
he figured out that every date on the board is a Friday.
He systematically escaped reality once a week just to survive the other 6 days. He sacrificed his sanity, took soul-crushing corporate punishments, and buried his own anxiety just to keep a roof over their heads. And Malcolm, from a whining kid to a teenager who accepts a brutal, agonizing truth. In the finale, Lois rips away at his dream of taking an easy, high-paying corporate job. She tells him he has to suffer, work as a janitor, and go to Harvard so he can become a president who actually cares about poor families. And he accepts it.
Governor of a mid-sized state, and then you become president of the United States.
So, why am I telling you all this? And what's the bottom line? Malcolm in the Middle was never a story about a brilliant rebel fighting the system. It's the complete opposite. An ordinary, deeply broken family shattered itself. They broke their own backs. Why? Just to build a safety net, a soft landing for a static, unchanging kid who refused to grow up. Do the numbers back this up? Absolutely. In the early seasons, Francis drives the plot. But by the 7th season, Dewey's music, Reese's apartment, Malcolm's college crisis, all of it unfolds practically without him. The ultimate rebel became completely irrelevant to his own family's survival. The story simply outgrew him. And you know what really seals it? Francis accidentally drops his ID badge on the floor. Amerisys Industries.
Amerisys Industries? What's that?
Shh. It's my employee badge.
Doing mind-numbing data entry. The ultimate anti-establishment icon literally morphed into his father. The show stripped away his entire rebellious persona and rolled him right into a 9-to-5 corporate trap. And here is the most bitter, sickening part of it all. He actually loves it. Anyway, whether you agree with my take or think I'm completely wrong, fight me in the comments. I'll keep tearing apart the psychology of this universe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.